By the way, gun to the head, San Francisco or Miami for Brady?
Miami. I think San Francisco is pretty committed to Trey Lance. If Brady was like, I'll take the minimum, let me in, maybe they do one more year. But I would guess. I don't think he's coming back. Do you think he's coming back? Like really coming back? Or do you just like, you're just thinking maybe there's a 5% chance he gets bored?
Well, Kev, as the guy who's been driving the Brady narrative really this whole year, and who's been ahead of the game this whole time, I actually think I think there's some sort of San Francisco-Miami thing. Now, you could tell me it's Miami ownership. He's running the team, not playing.
Do you want to get involved? Oh, you mean if that team comes up for sale?
Or Steve Ross, as a way to throw people off the scent of all the crazy shit that happened with him the last thing, says, I'm selling a minority share to Tom Brady that in 5 years, the majority will kick in, but it's going to be a transition. I think it's either that or I think he goes to the Niners for 1 year. And if I had to bet, I would say it's 60-40 Niners and 40% Miami. But I think it'll be one of those two things.
Joe Montana came on Slow News Day and said when he talks to players, they said Trey Lance isn't ready.
Trey Lance isn't ready. He wasn't. We saw nothing last year that thinks he's ready. And also, like, if you really read that Instagram post carefully, it was a goodbye to Tampa. And this is why I went all in on this the first couple weeks of January. I think he was done in Tampa. I think guys like LeBron, Brady, whoever, they look at, they have the ability to kind of sniff their team. And if they don't totally like the smell, they're out at this point of their career when they're just about winning titles. I think he knew Tampa, that was a wrap, that they were not winning a title in Tampa. So I'm either not playing anymore, or maybe something will happen with San Francisco, or maybe, I'll be an owner in Miami. But I think it's one of those two things. I really do. So there you go. How about him and the Dolphins? How funny would that be? That was his nemesis for 20 years. And then he goes to the Dolphins?
I listened to a lot of his interviews with Jim Gray, and one of them was really funny where he just he complained about how dark and cold it gets in New England. He was just like, it gets cold it gets dark at like 3 p.m. And he really liked being out on the boat, is what I'd say. Reading the tea leaves, he enjoyed going to practice, putting in a full Tom Brady shift, being there at 5 a.m, and then going, hey, you know what I'd like to do? Let's go on a boat. So Miami would track there.
Well, Miami's also way closer to his other son who lives in New York with Bridget Moynihan. Mm-hmm. The case against San Francisco is it's too far away. It's too far away from, even if his family, Giselle, moved out, he's still 3,000 miles away from his other son. He's very committed to being around for everybody. That doesn't mean that he couldn't decide in June 28th, I'm playing again. I've stayed in shape. And he basically does a 6-month run in the Niners. Just like, I'm going to live in San Francisco. You guys stay here or whatever it is. I don't think Trey Lance is ready. I think Tampa Bay needs a quarterback too. And it's like, there's been that Jimmy G rumor about why wouldn't they trade Jimmy G to Tampa for the rights for Brady and a 3rd-round pick, something like that.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, Brady is under contract, so there would probably need to be some compensation there. But I also say, I thought it was weird that he retired. I'm putting that in air quotes so the listener can't see that. When I think PFF just came out with its top 100 players, he was 9th. He was the 9th best player in football this year. And he's addicted to football.
And he was good to the bitter end.
Yeah. It's not, right. It's not like the wheels fell off in the playoffs or anything. He's addicted to football. And also, everything we've heard, I'm sure you've heard this too, was that he knew, this was 10 years ago, he knew he could play to 46 because Tom House, his throwing coach, used to coach all the pitchers, and Nolan Ryan could throw a fastball until he was 46. You knew that the mechanics could hold up. That was always the theory, is that in baseball, these guys can throw till they're 46. Why couldn't a quarterback, when you need much less velocity and much less wear and tear on your arm, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it was weird that before we even knew he'd be the 9th best player and the 2nd best quarterback at age 44, I thought it was weird that he would hang it up that early. I think that this is a guy who just wired in a completely different competitive way than everybody else. I mean, everybody else, I think now there's a genre of Joe Burrow stories, and I've told a bunch of them, where it's like, oh my God, Joe Burrow is just different. Like, Brady's that times 100, man. And it's 20 years of that. It's not 3 years of that. And so I am not discounting anything that Brady would do, because he's unlike anybody we've ever seen in the sport.
I would bet on San Francisco.
Okay.
I wonder what. Now, if you take the Brady we saw last year and switch him with Jimmy Garoppolo last season? Do the Niners win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, definitely.
I kind of think they do too. I asked this to Sal on Sunday. Do you think if you're a Buffalo fan, do you come away from Sunday night thinking, I can't believe we didn't win the Super Bowl. We had the best team.
Yes, but I also feel like that if you're a Chiefs fan too, which is even more alarming because they actually blew the game.
Right. But that I'm blaming Mahomes. I'm going into my offseason going, I don't understand. We paid $500 million for Mahomes and he turned into Trey Lance in the second half of that game. The Niners, by the way, 15-1 on FanDuel to win the title.
You going to put a unit down?
That's a little high. If we're thinking TB might be coming back.